So in our previous class, we actually looked at relational databases, and we specifically make use of SQLite, and we saw how we can establish connections with with a relational database, and see how we can interact with this database. So we'll just continue from there. And for today's class, we are basically gonna see how we can organize our routes and also test our application after we must have finished. So basically, over time, your application will expand. Already, we've seen how we've how we've actually started making use of multiple files. Like we have the CRUD file, we have the database file, and all of those things. Now, over time, our application will grow so big, and we will have a lot of routes, all right? And then we may have routes that are specific to the admin, and we may have route that are specific to probably a specific set of users. So we can also have route that are also specific to let's say a certain portion or a certain section of your application. Now, all these routes can right, it can actually sit in your main.py file, but then you tend to see that your main.py file will tend to incorporate all these routes, and it will make it difficult to debug or to actually maintain the application over time, because over time you may intend to probably work on the route handler that are specific to admin, but then you get to see that your main.py actually contains every route, both the admin and every other existing route. So in this class, we're gonna see how we can do what organize this route, making use of a built-in function called the API router. So fast API router has a function that helps us to organize endpoints in our fast API application. So we're gonna go straight to the code, and then we see how we can implement this organization, making use of this function. So as usual, our usual way of opening up our project. So I'll quickly open that up, which by now we already familiar like this here in my desktop. So I'll activate my environment. So basically, I just change directory to that environment and just activate it to that directory, and then just activate the environment. And then we just change direction to our main folder, and then we open it up in VS Code. All right, so so far we've had a lot of things here. We had a lot of things here, and we've had our main dot. So this is where we use to actually um, put some certain routes. Okay, so I will simply just create another file here, and I'll call this file main.3. Now, so I want to actually explain this concept using a new main file, right? So I don't intend to go back and 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 then start commenting out on existing routes. So I want to illustrate this concept with a new file, and I'll call this file main.py. Main.py. Okay, sorry, so we are main3.py rather. So we already have main.py and main, but once we want to deploy this application, we actually use just one single main file, right? So this ones I'm just creating this main file to illustrate this concept. Okay, but then once we are ready to do what to put out a full-blown application, then there won't be need for multiple main.py files. Okay, so far we've had a KodeCamp.db. So this is actually a file database, an SQLite. It's a file database. So once we go into production, that file will no longer be necessary. So we only use this to illustrate that, right? So when we in our future classes, we'll look at how we can actually make use of a Postgres database on render, right? So, because I think that platform domain, you are not advertising anybody here, but Brenda actually offers a free 3-month Postgres database. So you can actually use that and see how you can actually make use of an actual database of production. So in a subsequent class, we will actually look at that, and then we go ahead and remove the codecamp.db file. Okay, so far we have other existing folder and files within our folder. So we have the CRUD and the database and the rest of them. So basically, by default, our main.py or our main file, right, usually carries the entire route for this application. So I'll just edit this man here. So usually we don't need this. So usually our main.py carries all the routes for all applications. So now for the entire application rather. So let's assume that I intend to have routes that are specific to the admin. So I'll put a comment here to signify that what that every route that comes under here is of the admin, right? So I'll simply have probably a two routes for admin for now. So I'll say app.get, and then this gets here. I would go ahead to probably call it admin. Okay, admin, and then so it simply means that in order to get to this route, you have to navigate to /admin, and then you get to see this route. And basically, this route will take you to a function where to a route handler that shows admin. For now, I'll put admin, let's say properties, so like that. Okay, for now, I can't think of a name right now. So properties. So we assume that this route is taking you there, and you see some certain things that are specific to the app to the admin. So at this point we can do our authentication and making sure that specific user is an admin in order to do what to view this route. But we won't do authentication here, right? So basically, I want to illustrate the concept of managing routes, or of organizing routes. So this man here will take nothing, and this man here will simply return a simple message that says admin dashboard. Okay. Admin dashboard, and I'll have a couple of routes that belongs to admin. So I'll have another one, and then I'll call this should be admin forward slash admin forward slash call these gets dash admin details. Okay, get dash admin details, and here will be get admin details, and here I will simply put details, and then admin details. So I'll have that to signify routes for admin. And of course, we already know that the admin route can be as many as possible. So we'll use this too for the illustration. So we can also have an other route, okay, other route that does what that actually manages the let's say a specific section of user. So let's say these people are let's say premium users. So so this route will take them to premium users, right? Assuming premium dash users, right? So this should give me premium users, and this should give me premium users, and this will basically be get all premium underscore users. Okay, and this will be message of all premium users, and we also do the same thing here, get premium user, get premium dash user details, and I'll put here premium user details. Okay, so that should do premium that should do. So this should be get premium user detail. Okay. So we can, so this here would be our for a section for premium user. All right. And we can have this route in many sections, as many as possible. All right. So probably our application also actually contains a section that handles books, such as adding of book, editing of book, and adding of user to the book, and so on and so forth. Right? Now, all those things are things that can actually comes in our application and then makes up this route to be much. Now, imagine how having about 500 routes with logic in between these routes. So far, we don't have any logic, and each route tends to be just 30 lines of code, right? But then there are routes that actually contains a lot of logic, right? And that route tends to be longer. You feel me? Now, the main file becomes too cumbersome, or it becomes too loaded with a lot of code. So as such, there is need to us to actually organize this code. There's need to actually organize this code. So to actually organize this code, we will simply create another folder. So we'll simply create another folder here. In this case, I will just call this folder. In this case here, I will call this folder route. Okay, I'll call this folder route. So this should be, I want this to be lowercase, right? This should be route. I'll call this route, or routers rather, routers. Now within routers, I also, this should be a folder, not a file. So I'll delete this. So I'll put a new folder and I'll call this routers. And within my routers folders, I'll do the same thing I did here in my app folder. So I want Fast API to do what, to also consider that folder as a model. It means that I should be able to do what, to import Python files from that particular folder, right? So to actually let that happen, we simply add a new file called init. It's a special file in Python. So init underscore underscore init underscore underscore dot py. So this file should just be there in the folder. So you don't have to put anything in this file. So this file should just be there in that folder. So now within this folder, I can create what I can create a lot of I can create separate files that should handle routes specific to what to a section in our application. So what do I mean? If I need a file that should handle every route and every logic pertaining to every route and every logic pertaining to our admin route. So I could simply come here and create a file called admin.py. So now admin.py they will handle every route that should concern in the admin section of our application. Now, if I also want to have another file, I will also create another file for premium users pertaining to what, to our application, premium underscore user.py. So premium users now will do what, will be a file that should handle all the routes pertaining to what, to the premium users of what, of this application. So now that we have that, I can simply go back to what, to our main file and do what, and bring other routes and put them in each of these in each of these files. So for the admin, then I wouldn't want to put them here. I'll do what, I'll simply cut this. I'll remove them completely. So I'll cut it alongside with that comment. And they will take it to what, the admin file, and do what, simply just paste that thing. Now that we have this here, now the thing is that we can have multiple instances of what, of our Fast API in one application. What do I mean? I simply mean that we cannot have this man twice. So since we've already made this file to be like the entry point to our Fast API application, so we cannot go ahead and have another Fast API instance in another file. So what happens now is that Fast API actually provides us with what, with a module, right? A function called API router. So with API router, you can do what, you can create a sub route for what, for your application. and then you can do what? Bring those routes down to what? To your main.py file. So how do we do this? We simply go back to our sub routes. So in this case, their main file was will handle route for a specific portion of what of our application. So in my admin.py, right? In my admin.py, what I basically want to do is to bring in what is to bring in that module, is to bring in that in that module called API router. So I'll simply say from fast API, because that's where it is. From fast API, go ahead and import API router. So with API router, we can do what we can manage our routes for each section of our application. So I'll simply just instantiate this. Okay, so API router, similar to what we did with the app instance. Okay, so I'll simply assign this one to a variable called router, and that. Now with that, I can use what I can make use of what of router to what to be creating my route instead of what of app itself. So instead of this being app, right, I simply want to make this. So this should be a decorator. Please, we missed our @ sign. So this should be at router, a router dot what they requested, and then your what your route and then the route function. So it's similar to what we've been doing, except that it's not in a different file. And we're not bringing what and we're not making use of the instance of API router rather than what the instance of fast API. So same thing will also happen here. So I'll go come back here and do it add and then put router there dot get, and that will solve our problem. That would solve our problem. So now I can do what I can basically just put all the path pertaining to what to the admin in this particular file, and I'll do the same thing for what for our premium user. So I'll simply copy this man out and then take it to what to our premium user and paste it there. Then go back to our main and do what cut every route pertaining to our premium user. So I'll come here and then I'll just paste this man here. And then I'll simply change this to at router. And same thing happens here at router. All right, so with that, we are good to go. So I can still have a single route, probably a root route for my main. So I could still have probably one single route here, and this one I'll simply call it app dot app dot get, and then I'll just put root directory there. Excuse me, and then I will just simply put my function here, function handler. Sorry, it should be there, and then I call this root, and root takes nothing, and then returns a response saying message, and then message will be route handling. Okay, and that should be that. So far we are not yet done. Because at the moment, even if we try to access the other route, we will not see it. So to test that out, I'll just come back here and put on my command prompt, and then
The app is not a decorator. The app is not a decorator.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. So that should go in there. Perfect. Okay, so having that done, and then we can do what we can start our development server. So you beacon this, and this one we use main 3, and right, and then app, then dash want to reload this. Okay, so we can simply just go to our browser, and then we can test this out. Then we can test this out, and that's this taking time. So let's, and our server is not even running. Beacon dash app 3 dash Let's see. But that is taking time to load. Oh, let me go ahead and change my port. Sometimes my port can just be behaving funny. Let me go ahead and change my port directory there. My port rather, sorry. So I'll close this and I'll run this on a different port. So I will go ahead and specify dash dash port. I want to run it on port 1990. So you don't need to do this. You don't need to do this if yours is working just fine. So I'll go ahead and change my ports here from 8000 to 1990. Port 1990. Right, so that actually came through. So most things happen. These things happen a lot. So, but I have a lot of things running behind the scene, and as most times this stuff happens cause port conflict. So when it happens like that, I basically just changed my port. I, I basically just changed my port. And if you have such problem as well, you could just run yours on a different port. So far, this is what we've had so far. We've been able to do what to access this route. But how about the other routes that we have within here? So this route says route of the admin. Now, if I try to access this, this should not actually go through because at the moment we are not aware of that route. We are not aware of that route. So it says that route is not found, right? Details not found. And if you check your status code, you see, and you get what 404, it means that what that particular route does not actually exist. So at the moment, this route actually lives within our application, but can't actually be accessed. Can't actually be accessed. Now remember that your app, your instance of your fast API, what is the entry point to your application. And so far, this is the only thing with what we've actually linked that up with, right? That's the only route we actually link that up with. Now, to actually get to other route to actually start working, we can simply just import them. We can simply just import them. So how we do this? We just carry out our normal importation and then we bring in those files. So I'll simply say from router being what we have there. From routers, I want to go ahead and import. I want to go ahead and import. We have users there, I think, premium users. We also have the admin users, exactly. So now what we simply want to do now is just add them. It's just the word add them. It's just to simply add them. So we can simply do that by saying app. Now that should come in before your instance of your app of your fast API. All right, being that this is where your entry to your application starts. So everything should come after that. So simply say app here dot okay. So the app gets has a function called include router. So we simply do what we simply include that router there, and then within this, we basically want to include what the router that we have here, this router that we have here. So this router that we have, because this router what is linked to what to every router that is within that file. So we want to do what to reference this router variable. So we go back again and we simply say premium for the premium users first, premium users dot router. So we want that router. So you want that variable, right? So same thing happens with the admin as well. So we bring in the admin here and we do that. And with that, we are good to go. With that, we are good to go. So with that, it simply means that every route that lives within this file is what is now included within our main.py file without necessarily doing what? Writing out this route the way it is, as it is here. Okay, without necessarily doing that. So now if you go back again uh, um, to our browser and then we try to access that route, then this should go through as expected. So if I come back again and then I fill this, then we have the appropriate response for that particular router. Sorry, for that particular route. Same thing will happen with every other route that we try to do what to actually fetch. Now, one thing you don't want to do, right? One thing you don't want to do is this. Okay, so you should actually take note of this, is that you don't actually want to explicitly import that router to avoid name conflicts. So what do I mean? You don't want to do this where you say from router dot premium, okay, import router. You don't want to do this because you basically do this for every other file if you're doing this. So that means to get the router for the admin, you would also want to do similar things, say from router again, from router dot admin import router. So you don't want to do this to avoid what? To avoid name conflict. To avoid name conflict. Because at the moment, when we try to reference this router here, right? When we try to reference this router, you tend to see that we are basically only referencing the very last router, this one. So this name here will tend to override this other router. So as such, it will be difficult for us to do what? To get the route from where? From the premium user files. Do we understand? Do we understand?
Yes. Yes.
Correct. That's perfect. That's perfect. So I don't think there's any other question there. So that was actually a straightforward concept. So that concept is quite simple and it's very useful going forward, because as we move forward, your application is growing. So you want to manage your route. You want to manage your route. So one more thing you can always do again. So I will undo this to have what we had before now. Okay, so one more thing you can, are we having, I think I'm even undoing everything. Trying to be that way. Okay, now. Oh, gosh, this thing just changed to another project route. Sorry about that, guys. Don't know why. I think Control R will simply just help you to navigate your VS Code, and then you tend to switch folder without necessarily closing that. Let's confirm it again. So that, okay, so that happens. So your Control R will help you to open previous folders that you've actually opened within your project and within your VS Code without necessarily closing your VS Code. So now you've learned one new command in VS Code. So if you want to go back to your previous folder that you've opened in your VS Code, but then you don't want to close your VS Code and you don't want to leave your VS Code, Control R helps you do that trick. So it will give you a list of previous files that you open with VS Code, and you can just select from any of them without doing what necessarily um, closing your VS Code or actually opening a new window with VS Code. So I'll come back here again because that's where we are. That's where we are. Okay. So all right. So I think we were undoing something, and then since we undo everything. All right. So let me just go ahead and bring those back, please. So premium users dot router. Same thing happens with admin dot router. All right. So one more thing you can actually do. One more thing that you can actually do to actually help you out. Okay, is that if you actually go to, or in a situation where every route in this admin or in a particular section of your application have a similar prefix, right? You can do what? You can actually add a global prefix to all of them, right? So all of them, and I think it is actually a good thing, right? So let's say that we have so many routes here, right, that pertains to the admin section. Then basically I want to do what? To navigate to admin slash and then follow what? That specific route. So it means that everything that should belong or that pertains to the admin, right, I expect it to do what? To enter that route after what? The admin slash, right? Same thing happens. So if you see what we're actually doing here, let's assume that I have other routes here, then basically what I want to do is to have this kind of prefix for each of those routes. So that tells me that once you just navigate to slash admin slash whatever thing, right? That in fact, the moment I see slash admin, I should expect that route should be going straight to the admin file, right? That is handling the admin route. Same thing happens with the premium users. So if that's the case, right? If that's the case, right? So if you intend to have this prefix for in all of them, right? If that's the case, then what you could do is that the router, you could specify a parameter for the API router, and the parameter is simply prefix, right? The parameter is simply prefix. So I could simply just come here and then I could say prefix. So this man has a prefix. Now this prefix is takes the prefix of your URL. So assuming this is my prefix for all of them. This is my prefix for all of them. For all of them. Then basically what I could just simply do is just specify that as a prefix, and that will and that will be used. That will be used in what in our file without us necessarily doing what repeating these things for all of our applications. So what do I mean? I could just cut this out or uh, copy this, and then just put that here as what prefix. So it means that add slash admin before what all our routes. So basically, what we'll be seeing here is what will be slash admin slash admin, and then what the slash that we have there. Same thing happens here. What we will get is a slash admin, and then what's followed by this man, right? Followed by this man, followed by the other slash. So if that's the case, right? So if that is the case, then basically what I want to do is to remove this other slash admin. All right, we don't want it because this will be added to all of that route automatically. So I can just focus on the actual route and leave what the prefixes there, and what it will be added to all of them. So that way, if we go back, then we should still have what we have, but then but then there is a sorry, I think I'll save it down. But then this looks way better, right? Way better, so that I simply know that once I see the admin, I know that what we are going straight to the admin route, the admin route. So let me just put on our server back again. When that man went off. All right, so switch this to command prompt and ubicon, and then I want to do main3, and then app dash port. If I remember, I have port conflict, so but you don't have to do that if yours is running just fine. Right, so going back, we still have our application running as expected, So this way helps you that it helps you in instead of repeating these things over in your entire route, you can just put it once and then add it as prefix to all of them. Same thing same thing can be applied here. So instead of having premium users in all the routes, right? In all the routes, I can just simply cut this man out, and then come here and add prefix and put it there, and then come here and remove this. That way, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. All right. Question. We have question. Question before we move into testing of this application. Question.
The underscore init.py underscore
Sorry?
underscore the file.
What's the one? Okay, the file init.py.
Yes, what's the SS? I always see it, but I don't know why should it be there. It's empty.
All right, so it's a standard in Python that if you have folders within your application that contains Python files, that you need to specify that file inside that folder. That way, That way it helps Python to simply read from that folder. So this is kind of granting or telling Python that with that it should grant us the ability to do what, to import files from that folder. So it's a special file that should just stay there. That should just stay there. Do you understand?
Okay.
Any other question?
Yes, I have a question regarding the. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes. Thank you for the class. So I have another question regarding the Donda.py. The Donda init.py. So the question is that now let's say I just like now I have this router app now. The
Okay.
router folder rather that we have the underscore init there. So let me now
Okay.
say, and I create another folder inside it again. Will I
Okay.
still have to put init again, or that init that I put in the beginning is sufficient?
You have to.
You understand the question?
Yes, I understand the question. That if you create another folder within that folder, do you need
Yes,
to specify the init folder in it again?
yes.
Yes, you should.
Is there any need to put it? Okay, okay,
Yes.
okay, okay. Thank you.
All right. So any other question before we proceed? Any other question? Any other question? Right. So the silence means no other question. Okay. So let's basically see how you can do a carry out testing of our application. So basically testing is very crucial steps in application development. So it helps you to to see or to try out your application, and see possible bugs, and then they will rectify them. So there's a manner where we can do this, and which is what we've been doing so far. We write we'll write a route, and then we do what, we simply go to browser or Postman, we just start testing it and then seeing if it's working, right? But then with unit tests, you can actually do a test your application without actually leaving your VS Code, right? Without actually leaving your VS Code. Okay. So you test it to see if it's executing fine, right? If it's executing file. So you give it possible values and then see if that value is what is if if that application what is responding the way it should do what respond. Right? That's basically the whole purpose of testing. And I think back then we have what we have different types of testing, right? So we have unit testing, we have integration testing, we have system testing. We have a lot of them. Um, and the difference between them is not big, right? The difference between them is not big, all right? So unit testing is basically just testing probably a single function in the entire system. So what do I mean? And what do I mean? You basically carry a specific route, okay, a specific route handler, and do what, and then you test it just that route handler. Probably you pass some few values, and then you do what, you test it out, right? There's also integration testing. Integration testing is basically probably you have a route that actually incorporates certain functionality or external functionality. And let's say a route that connect to the database, a route that connect to database, and and then interact with it. Now you go see that what that for that route is not just a single function, but then it's a function that actually incorporates the ability of interacting with the database. So you can actually test that particular function, and that will be seen as what as integration test. So you're testing to see that whatever function you've integrated in this particular section of your application is working. So we also have system testing. So this is where you test the entire application, right? So the application has been deployed, and you are now basically testing them out, testing the entire system, and seeing if it's if it's actually working. So we also have some other kind of tests like a performance test and the rest of them, right? So now these tests are actually tends to be in stages. So as an application grow, you tend to do what to keep testing them. Like for instance, you can't actually carry out the full system test when you are still building the system. So you have to wait to the entire system has been built, right? And before you can do carry out a full system test. Same thing happens that you can actually carry out integration tests when you have not actually done any integration, right? But there's always a likelihood of being what is a unit test, because of course your application will always have some subunits, some sub functions that you need to test and see if it's working. So we're gonna see how we can do carry out some basic tests, right? Nothing too complicated, basic tests. Okay, so for those of us that have been in system development for quite a long time, so this wouldn't actually look new to us. Okay, but then if this is your first time of actually gonna see how you can do test your application, then there's absolutely no problem. No problem. So there are basic things, there are basic tools that we can use for testing our fast API application. So we can actually have we can actually make use of of a request library, right? To make this to make a few requests to our endpoint and test out their result or the expected output. But for this class, we're going to make use of a tool called PyTest. So PyTest is basically a testing framework, right? That we can actually use to do to write a very simple, scalable test stacks, right? So that's the library we'll be using. That's the library we'll be using for this class. And in order to use that library, first of all, we need to do we need to have it installed on our device. So at the moment, I don't think we have that installed. But then let's just go ahead and do and try that out and see that and make sure that it is working as it should or as expected. So let's see that it's working as expected. All right, so quickly, we're gonna get at a quick install of that, and we are good, and we should be good to go. We should be good to go. All right, so I'll break my server. Okay, sometimes to break the server is something else. So let's go ahead and just close the server for now and open it back up again. So let's switch to man prompt, and then we simply say pip install PyTest. PyTest, and then that will carry out that installation for us, right? But then where that installation is actually happening, there are a few concepts that we have to do to put in mind. So basically, we by convention we tend to call our test file with a name starting with test underscore the kind of test you want to do, or a name that ends with underscore test.py. So by convention, we like doing that, but then it's not compulsory. But then, so that when another developer actually carries your script or your application, they can actually and they can simply just tell that this particular file is just for testing purpose, right? So you basically don't want to give your file or your test file a very wonderful name that people will start thinking if it's part of your application or if it's a module that your application is depending on. Please not that your test file is not a file that helps your application to do to work, right? It's basically a file that does some testing to your application. It does not help your application in any way to do to function properly. It helps you at the developer, right, to know, okay, this is where I'm having problem, or this way that there might be possible problem that needs to be fixed, and then you go and do what you gonna fix it, right? The test file does not it does not boost the application. It does not help it to function well. It does absolutely nothing. So in that case, you want to actually you would always want to name your file and then find somewhere and put what test inside that file name, so that our developer would know that this file what is a test file. And also the function that you want to write within your test files should start with test underscore. Should start with test underscore. All right. So it is necessary that it should start with test underscore. The reason for that is that the tool that we are using called PyTest actually assumes that every function that starts with so in this library we basically do what go through your entire application, your entire files, and do what and find every function that has the name that starts with test underscore, and then it will assume that that function is testing a specific something or a specific part of your application and then when you don't name this test function, this function with this name, this library cannot tell that function was meant to be to be a test function. It will ignore that function. So basically, you want to name your function starting with what test underscore followed by whatever name you want to do what to add there, right? But for now, we are basically gonna write our one simple test inside our main.py file. So let's just see how these things actually look like. All right. So now that we have the the PyTest tool, now the PyTest tool has a class. All right, a class called test client. So test client is what we want to use, or is what you will use to do what to simulate the testing process. So the process of going to your browser to do what to make a GET request, and probably you provide some certain parameters. Now with your test client, you can do what you can simulate that whole process, and then you do what you see the expected result, and so on and so forth, or you are set for any specific things you intend to do what to test for. Okay, so having that in mind, we do what we simply bring in the test client from fast API though. So from fast API though, from fast API dot test client, all right, dot test client. I want to go ahead and import test client. So test client is what we will use to do what to simulate that whole process, right? That whole process. So now basically this test client takes in the instance of your application of your fast API. So that way it has access to the entire application. So it can basically just navigate to any way you want it to do what to navigate to. It's just that simple, right? It's just that simple. Still apologize. I was actually talking and I thought I was unmuted. Please, sorry about that. So I was saying that that the test client is a class that we intend to use for simulating this test, right? So I'm simply assigning it to a variable called client. So this client now what we start to use our. So now we want to use that to simulate. So what happens that the test client class actually takes what your application instance, your instance of your fast API, which in this case we can here. Please confirm you can hear me. I can see my screen, please.
I can hear you.
All right. So like I was saying, so this test client, right, is a class that inherits that takes in your instance of your fast application, which in this case here. So that way it has access to your full application. So we can do what it can actually navigate to a specific route that needs to be tested. So we are basically doing what passing this as what to a variable called client. This client now will now represent the end user, someone that wants to do what to test our application, right? So now this way, I don't need to now go out to Postman and go and start typing the values and probably testing this thing out. I can just write the test there and carry out that test. But then, since we are making use of a library called PyTest, PyTest actually assumes that a function that should be a test function should start with this name, followed by whatever thing you wish to add there. But then that function must start with that name. But then if we change this name, then PyTest will not be able to view that function as well as a test function. So it's not bother to take it as well as a test function. It will leave it there, right? So it is necessary that your test function should start with what we test underscore. So now I can now call this function test for what? For root route. Test for route. So this one is what is the function that should do what? That will test our root directory. Sorry, our route. So there are a lot of things that you can actually do here. But then before you even start to test, you want to do what? To make the request, all right, to that route and see that route is doing what is behaving as it should behave, right? So first of all, I will simply just make a request there. So I would simply say client. So with the client, I can remember the client has access to what? To the entire application. So I can just say client, and then I'll just say dot what the request to that particular route. So in this case, that route is what this route is what is expecting a get request. So I'll simply say client dot get, right? And then the route itself. So in this case, this is the route here. It's just a root route. So we specify that route for that client. And then at the end of it all, we are expecting a response. So I will assign this to a variable called response. So this will make what? This will go ahead and carry out what? A get request to what? To that specific route, and do what? And the response of that request will do what? Will be saved here, will be stored there. And then we can do what? We can check, or we can do what? We can test these things to see if it's working as it should work, right? So we can test it to see as it should work. Now, one of the simplest thing, or one of the easiest kind of test that you could do could be probably to check the response that was sent, if it matches a specific kind of response that you are expecting that route to do what? To send, right? That you're expecting that route to send. So when the request like this has been made, we can make use of a keyword called assets. Now, asset is a built-in keyword that is used to check if a provided condition is true, right? If it's true, then it will mark that condition as well as a pass. Like that, it means that it has checked that condition and it has passed that check, right? But then if it's not actually true, then if it's false, then it will do what? It will raise as citation error, right? As citation error. So you can have as many asset keyword as well as possible in a one function, in a one test function, right? Depending on how many things you want to do what to test for. So in this case, I could probably test for the status code, right? So I want to check, all right, the response that we went to is the status code 200. That could be one of the tests that I wish to test for. So I will simply say asset response dot status code, right? So I want to check is response dot status code equals to 200, right? So this is our condition now, right? Now this asset now do what is go and check if this condition what is true. If it's true, mark it as what passed. But if you check it and it's not so, then that means there's a problem there. So if you do what it will tell you the developer that the response code from that request is not 200. So probably you were expecting that response, or probably you were expecting that route should to return a response code of 200. So in that case, if not returning 200, then that means there's a problem. So this test unit, right? It can let you know that response will not actually return what 200. As such, you need to go back and check for possible reasons why we not have what a 200 response code. Okay, so I would also check for the response body, right? In the actual response that was sent. That is our JSON response, right? That's been sent. So I can simply write another asset, right? And then I'll say response this time around, I want to check for the JSON itself, the JSON, and then do what? I will invoke that. Now this will do what? This response.json will do what? Will simply return what the JSON response that is being sent back. All right. So I can now say, okay, if you've checked that response and that response is not equals to probably, I'm expecting that this route should do what, should return this, right? And if for any reason that this I'm not getting this as the response, then what? Then there is a what? There is a problem. There is a problem. That can just be a very simple test. That can just be a very simple test. Now you can test for as many things as possible, depending on how big a route is, or on how or on how many functionality is there in that route. So you can test all those things, right? We just remember one function is probably test is for one request, right? So one function per request, right? Because at the moment we are making this, though you can actually have multiple requests in this one, but then it's recommended that one request, one function should handle what one specific request and do what and should test for that just that particular request, so you don't mix up things. So you don't mix up things. So with that, that would be what your simple test. And then how do we do? How do we run this test? How do we check out these things if this thing is actually working or not working? How do you check out these things if these things are actually working or not working? So it's quite simple. You simply just go to your command line and just type py tests. And PyTest will do what? Will do what? We'll go ahead and find wherever find every function that should be a test function and do what? And carry out the assets the and carry out the violation that a specific condition that was provided is what has been met or not met. So with that, we simply just execute that, and that will carry out that test for us. So since that did not actually go, let's see what's happening here. So it did not actually see that test. It did not actually see that test. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we want to go ahead and move this test file, right? Or move this test to a particular file and then provide a name for that file. Provide a name for that file. So this is what we will do. This is what we will do. Okay, so I will just create a very simple file here. I'll create a simple file here and I'll call this file. I'll call this file tests. Remember, by convention, your file name should just start with test, right? So I'll call this file test underscore main. Probably I'm testing for all this file will do what? Will handle all this file will handle all the test function for what that should test the route in where in the main file. In the main file. So that's why I'm calling this test underscore main py. Okay, and then I will simply just go back to our main and okay. So let's see. Okay, so at the moment, let's go ahead. Let's see what's happening here. Let's go ahead and delete these other files and let's remove that. I think that's some problem we have here. So I'll just move this to recycle bin for now, and then we'll come back and sort that out. All right, so that way, let's rename this to let's see, main. So let's run this code again. Let's see. Let's confirm that it's working. We're still not actually getting that. Okay, so let's just go ahead and just separate these test files. Right, let's go ahead and separate this. So I would copy this for now, or rather cut this out and then put it in main that, and then go ahead and bring in our test client. So cut this and then bring it down here, and then paste it there. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's see what's happening here. So the app, we need to bring our app from here. So I'll simply say from from our template say from main. So this will be current directory from main. So we want to import app. Right. Okay, so having that, let's go ahead and let's just run this one more time. So it says import, attempt to import relative path. So there's a problem, and that did not actually go successful. Someone's mic is on. They have a question.
Don't you think you the dot means you
I'm
think
finding it hard to hear you. I'm finding it hard to hear you.
What she said was that the dot main. I think that was what she was saying. That maybe
Okay, the
the
dot
dot main you
main.
used or something like yes.
Okay. So, yeah, what I'm seeing, it says routers model not found. So let's see. I think there is an importation error somewhere, and we have to deal with that. We have to deal with that. Well, first. So let's see.
Quality find it. Two, three.
I don't know where the import error is coming from. The dot main. Why not just main or dot slash main? Did you get me?
Hey, dot day is
Current
dot
directory.
day simply means we are almost that this file is in the same directory with that. So I'm basically saying from current directory.
There should. I was thinking there's supposed to be a slash since it's a current directory. There should be a slash, or it should just be main.
No, it should be dot main. Yes, it's correct. That should not be an issue.
Okay.
It should be main. It can be dot main or ordinary main. It will work that way,
Okay, so
whichever
let's
one.
use
Either main.
ordinary main. I think let's use ordinary main. That is dot. So in Python does not actually reference paths with slashes. It use of dots to reference path. So that would not actually have worked. So I think you're still having the same issues. It says main by collecting.
I think you can't see the app itself. That's the issue it's flagging that cannot import the name app from main. That's what it's saying.
Yeah,
That's where the issue is.
I see that. The importation is correct. What we have here is a little bit of problem. Little bit of problem. Okay, so let me comment on this mine out for now. We'll come back and sort that importation error. Comment on that mark out for now. Comment on this mark for now. We come back and we sort that importation error. So let's just try this again. Having the same issue. Okay, let's see. Right, so let's go ahead and let's debug this one after the other. We're having importation error. The main device. All file available. That's it should be. There. File not there. It is there. From foreign directory. see. Still having same issues. No model name router. You kidding me? There is model name router. Okay, so that actually went through, and we saw that we actually passed that 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 test. Okay, so what I want to explain again is how do we read these files? How do we read this test? Okay, and then wrap it up, and then probably in our next class we see how we can sort out all importation issues, and then see how we can organize our file properly. A lot
What
of things
if
that means scattered. Sorry.
what if in the test file it also wants you to import the router
What
folder?
if what?
What if the test file you're
Okay.
maybe you're also expected you can try importing the router folder and see if it will work without error. Just as we imported the main file.
Okay, we should try importing the router. Yeah, we still need to actually access the router from our main file, from our app itself. Okay, so we can't just write request directly to the router. We need to write the request
Okay.
through our app here, and then that request should be sent, can now be sent directly to our routers, right, to our routers. So this was just a simple test about for our main file. Then we're gonna test the other route that we have in routers file. But then what I want us to understand is how we read this, is how we read the this result.
Okay.
Is how we read this result.
I can't hear anything now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. So I don't know why that first one. All right. So there are possible three results you will likely see. So one of them is dot, which is what we've just seen here. So we've seen a dot there, and the dot there actually signify that that the test was successful. Let me comment this out. That the test was successful. That the test, this signify that the test is signify a specific test that is passed. That is passed. Right, and then we will also see an if and capital F. So capital F here actually indicates that is a specific test. It signifies a test that failed. So when a test failed, you will see what you will see F, meaning that that a particular test did fail, that a particular test did fail. And then we will also see let's say E, yeah, last one, E. E means that there's actually indicates an error, excuse me, and error occurred during the test execution. Those are the possible things that you could actually see in your test, okay, in your test. So we'll also see how you can do how you can also carry out tests for the remaining routers, for the remaining path, for the remaining path. So we want to do we want to include those routes in our main log file. So let's go ahead and just bring this people back and see if that gets rectified, which it should get rectified. Right, it should actually get rectified because that is where the request goes through your application, then down to those routers. So your request needs to pass through your instance of your fast API before even navigating down to the router. So you can't just put a request directly to those files there. Those files there. So let's just run this test and let's make sure that importation is not giving us any problem again. Which is still giving us problem. It says no module found. Okay, so let's go back again. Go back to our main. No modules found. So basically, we just say let's main. Go. Maybe having the errors. Router and could just basically just router. So that shouldn't be the case, but I think this should solve. But that shouldn't be the case. No. Let's see. That impression looks wrong. Okay. Okay, let's see. Let me go back to let's see our file as it is. Okay, so we have let's see our file arrangement.
Sorry, I noticed something.
All right, so what's that?
So which is really giving, I think it's naming confliction or something like that. Our pi main.py and our folder is also main. Our folder is named main. That is the main folder where everything is.
Exactly.
So that's where the issue is coming from. So we have to change the name of our main folder so that it won't be seen it as main. So that's where the issue is.
There you go. There you go. Exactly. Exactly. I think that is the problem. All right, so let's rename that. Please, thank you very much for that. But let's go with work though. That looks legit and that should work. So I'll call this main dash projects dash folder. So I can't edit that. I have to basically close my VS Code for that to work. All right, so let's go back again. This Yeah, I think that is the problem. CD into that and ls. Sorry, they are going to CD into the let's activate our environment. Let's CD in the main folder. Yes, good. Right. Let's see. Okay, let's go ahead and let's just see the main with our main folder. Okay. Command prompt. And let's just go ahead and just type by test. Alright, so that is still what that is still showing as not expected. It is still showing. Let's see. So it can't do. Let's see. No. Let's see. I don't think that is working. Right. So I think we're having conflict with our folder arrangement, and we run out of time. So basically, what we will do is this, right? When we come for in our next class, we will start a fresh project, and then we'll take time to do what to arrange our files properly. Our files is scattered all over, and we should not be so. So basically, once we do that, we'll sort out that this issue out, and then we write some few more tests for that route, and then moving for into what we have for that specific class on Thursday. All right, is that okay? Are we
Yes.
together? All right. So
Yes.
that's basically what we will do. That's basically what we will do. So when we come, we will sort our routers folder. We will sort our main file and any other folder that needs to that we need in a big application. So we arrange those files well and put them in places, and this will get rectified. All right, guys. So we'll just leave it as it is, and then we will convene on Thursday. All right. So please let's sort that out on Thursday. All right. Let's sort that out on Thursday. Is that still active? That is
Yes, sir.
still active.
Yes, sir.
Um, where is
Yes.
where is
Can you
Tina's
hear me?
invitation? Yeah, I can hear you. Where is what is his name? Is Tina's? Where's the
Joseph.
rep?
Is it Joseph?
Okay,
Joseph.
Joseph,
Joseph.
yes. Sorry, Tina's on the talk for it's for beginners. Where's Mr. Joseph? Has anyone heard from him?
No.
It was in the last class.
Yes, he was.
Where is I'm not really been seeing vibration. I'm not really seeing it for a long time. But whatever the case is, alright. So please let it be known in group that if, I'm still available for grading. Please let's do our tasks, please. There are a lot of stuff all that are not yet done.
Ada, your
Are you
background
guys?
is noisy. Ada, your background is noisy. Ada.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
All right. So I was saying that there are a lot of people that have not done their tax, and I don't know how you will communicate in a language that you guys will understand. Please communicate in that language with them. That I am still available for grading, and so they should do their tax. I am begging them to do the tax. They are running out of time. In 2 or 3 weeks, we should be wrapping up completely and moving into project phase. So they are running out of time. Then they should. It is mandatory that they should do that task. If not, they can't even participate in that project. They cannot participate in the project. And also, new tax will also be coming up this week. So before let's say, but before the end of tomorrow, we should have a personal tax 6. So and that will now leave us with 2 more tax and we're done. Right. So those are the 2 important announcements, and I want both of us to want to relate it to others in a language that they will understand. Because if it's my own language, they know that I understand them. So please let's it with them, and I'll see you guys on Thursday, please. I'll see you on Friday.
I have
It's my pleasure.
questions.
All right, please shoot.
I have questions. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you for the class. So now my first question is because this endpoints we built for this testing, they are very
Okay.
basic in the sense that
Yes.
we don't have maybe a query parameter or path parameter.
Yes.
So now if
Yeah.
we want to do
Okay.
the testing,
All
just
right.
like for example now where we have a path parameter, is it that the slash, just like this get slash, how am I going to write the path parameter? Will I use the bit that
Okay.
I really want to put value there,
All
or I
right.
will
So
just
yes.
leave it?
Okay. Yeah. You will be the one to put value. Okay. Let's try. Let's write it. Let us write one more. Let's write one more test. All right, for path and query parameters, and then let's just put these views, this route handler in the main file at the moment, till we can sort out other views, right? So we can sort out other routes. So I'll create one query parameter and one path parameter here. So now and also one one route that should do what, that should also take post request, right? That should also take post request. Okay, so what we do, we will simply just copy this man and edit it. So I'll paste this man here and I'll call this I call this path dash parameter slash, and then I'm expecting that this man should take a parameter of should take a path parameter of let's say a path parameter of let's say name, right? And I'm expecting that name here should be a string, right? Should be a string. And at the end of it, I should be expecting that I should get name alongside with whatever name is being provided. It should just be same back as the response, right? So this will be my X string. Same thing happens again with query. I'll copy this again. Excuse me. And I'll put it down here and I'll call this my query parameter, and I'll remove this one, and I'm expecting that one should provide email as query parameter. Okay. And yeah, we also have another one. So I'll bring in Pandentic for requests, for post request. So Pandentic. So basically I will just say from Pandentic import base model. I basically expect that one should have a base model of a class. So I'll call this a class. I'll call this user. This is how we inherit from a base model. And I'm expecting that this request body should have a name. Name should be of string. And age should be of integer. And then we simply just create a path that should take that. All right, so our code is requests dash body, right? And I'm expecting what user as a user type. Okay, so I believe that's what we call it, user. And yeah, at the end of it, I basically want to return this user. Then just basically return whatever we have as user. The actual user. All right, so those two routes we have there. So I'll remove these people for now. I think that I want causing problems, so I'll remove them for now. Okay, so going back to our test, we do what we want to write another test for what for testing a query parameter, or probably for testing query parameter and path parameter. So let's see how we can do that. Let's see how we can do that. So for path parameter, I'll simply just create a test, and I'll call this test path parameter. Path parameter. All right, and I'll make a get request to so this man. So this is the request that I intend to make, right? And I'm expecting that what that name should be, well, that name should be a string. So basically I'll put KodeCamp as name. KodeCamp as name. And I could also test for response, and I could also check that the response that's being sent is matches this. So going back, I will just put a response that should match this. In this case, where the results here is what should be KodeCamp. So if it matches that, then we are good to go. Right, then we are good to go. So I'll just do the same thing for query before we come back and do for body. So I'll do for query. For query, I could simply same thing. The same thing. So I'll change this to query. And I want to make a request to query parameter. Okay. And I also want to, first of all, I want to check that that's okay. And then I have a query called, and I have a query called email. I have a query called email. I have a query called email. Let's confirm that that is what we have. Let's go back. So this should be email, brother. So I want to check that this is the same as this. So go back to that this is equals to that email. I have an email that looks like this, sample at gmail.com, right? And then and then and then I and to actually query parameter, remember query parameter has to look like that. So I'll provide my what email, and email should be equals to sample. So I'll copy this and put it there. I hope you're following.
Yes, but before you run it, all this parameter, your query, there's no slash at the back. So I think that would be an issue.
Wait, that oh sorry, sorry. That's true. That is true. All right, nice observation there. Okay, so So let's take this out and then we'll come
So
back and
also in the main file as well. Also in the main file as well. It was omitted in the main file.
also the main file. This is serious. Those are required. So that we put them there. So let's run this. Let's see. Did we had an error again? Oh my days. All right, so let's see what we had. I think I did this that first time. So I basically just say from current directory import main, and then we can say main dot app. That's what we did. And then we just okay, sorry, that should be where are we? Going back here. That should be PyTest. Just say that what? Wasn't that what we just did a few minutes ago? I did work. Fantastic. Fantastic. General body pattern. Right, so it seems that we will likely be doing the unit test, the testing in our next class. But basically, this is how you want to test for path and query parameters. So you can test for a lot of things apart from checking the response body and probably the status code. You can check for you can check for some other thing like the response header, right? And you can also check for the response text itself, right? So what text was sent. So you can also even check for the cookies and of course query and path parameters, which we've seen there. We can also check for error itself. So we will check that the error message that's being sent is appropriate or is the expected or is a desired error message that we intend to send back. Right? So we will check for that as well. We can even check response time, so you can check a lot of things. You can actually write these checks for all these things, basically all these things. So, but I don't to run. We're having a lot of bug, and now I would have said let's sit down and sort out our project folder completely. But you see, we're already out of time, so that cannot happen. But basically, that is that for query and path and simple tests that we could also do. When we come in the next class, we will sort this out completely, and then we carry out this test and also see how we can handle tests when it comes to post request. Because so far, we are basically testing for get request so far. In the next class, we look at how you can test for post request as well, and then dive into what we have for that class and wrap it up for the week. Is that okay? Is that okay? Are you
Yes,
still with us?
yes, yes. But
Okay, so please let's go ahead.
I don't know, maybe there's
Sorry.
room to ask this question. I don't know, maybe there's
Okay,
room
please
to ask
ask.
this question. But it's
Yeah.
not relating to the class, so it's relating to the projects.
Okay.
So that we have to do. So now, what I want to ask is that because I noticed that Node.js is also backend and
Right.
Python is also backend. So now
Okay.
for the projects, how do we work hand in hand? Is it that there are aspects that Node.js has to take, then they pass it to
Yeah.
us, or maybe we are just basically doing the same thing. So because we really
No,
had that
no. You
confusion
guys.
in such a way that
Okay.
I don't understand.
Okay. So this what I will do, right? So I will pass that question to I don't is CodeCamp still active with us? I think he's the right person to actually answer
Okay,
that question.
Samson, don't bother yourself. There won't be when it's time. There won't be two backend stacks in one project. Okay, did
Okay,
you get that?
okay.
So
I get
each
it, I
project
get it.
will have either a Python fast API backend or a Node.js backend.
Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Right. So I think that answers your question. Right. So please go ahead and pass that information to the rest of us, and probably communicate it in a language that they will understand with you guys, because they seem not to be understanding my own language. Right. So in the absence of any other thing, we'll meet again on Thursday, 5 p.m. West African time. You do have a fantastic good night rest. Bye for now.
Good night. Thank you.